my friends, it's Bella and welcome to Beauty on a Budget and another week in lockdown life. So Monday has come round again. I can't remember what day it is, to be perfectly honest. I woke up this morning thinking, is it the week? Is it still the weekend? But we're still here, and I hope you're all well and you're all safe. Over the weekend I was sort of looking up for some books that I could read, and new ones, and I've got Kindle. I mostly read on Kindle, and I put it on large print because I need large print. And thinking about a few books and finding a few books that I'd like to read at the moment, or I've been wanting to read for a while. And it got me thinking, what was my first book? What was the first book I ever read? Now, I don't mean, Famous Five and things we read as a child. I mean things we read as we got older. My first adult book, my first book that I read as I got older, past the teen books and those sort of books. And I think, going back, what I can remember, my first book was a book by Susan Isaacs, and it was called Compromising Positions, and it was the first book she wrote about a character, a Long Island housewife called Judith. And Judith gets to be a bit of a sleuth, and different things that happen in her life and her adventures, and I loved that book. And I've never read the follow-ups, which I should, and this is one of the things that I've been looking for, to read the follow-ups. And I'd like to read Compromising Positions again, because I haven't read that for oh dear me, 45 years 50 years, a long time since I've read it. It was 1972 I think it came out, but it was got to be 40 years ago at least. And I really liked it. I really liked that book, and I'm going to look at that again, and I also want to look up the follow-ups, because she wrote a lot of books. Susan Isaacs wrote a lot of books about this Judith. Now, and then I was thinking to myself, what was my other firsts? I'd love to share those with my ladies, and also for you to share yours with me. And I've got a few down here, and I've taken some photographs so that you can see the ones that I'm thinking of. So I'll put a picture of Susan Isaacs' book up here. I want to read it again. I can't give it a big recommendation because I can't remember that far back, but I know I really liked it because it stayed in my mind all this time later, so I must have liked it. What was the first film that I really, really liked as an adult? I was getting older, as I was becoming a young adult, and my favourite film, without a doubt, was one. It was a black and white film actually, and it was called A Patch of Blue, and it had Sidney Poitier and Lisa Hartman, and Sidney Poitier plays a coach, a counsellor, and Susan Hartman is a blind girl, and she lives in a real trashy house with a trashy mother, and she meets him in the park. And they talk. She goes to the park to escape, and they talk all the time in the park. And she doesn't realise he's black. She doesn't realise he's black. He never says it. And we're talking, this film came out in the 60s. So we're talking about very different ideas people had then. And the prejudices, and how she conquers it and conquers the prejudices, and how he helps her. And it's a lovely, lovely film. Shelley Winters plays her mother, and she's a hooker, and it's just a really, really and a very, very touching film. And I'd still watch it now. It's a lovely, lovely film. So Patch of Blue with Sidney Poitier and Lisa Hartman. If any of you remember that film, please tell me, because I'd love. And also, what was the first film you remember watching? I'd love to share that with you as well. My favourite program, my first program I can really remember watching. If I go back in my mind, the first program I can really remember enjoying as an adult was one called The Love Boat. I put a picture up here again, and it was about a cruise ship, and they all the crew on the ship, and all the different antics they got up to, and the different things that happened, and it's different stories because obviously different passengers would come on the ship, and I just really loved that. Does anybody remember The Love Boat? Now my first, then I went on to my first job. I was thinking of all these different things. What was my first job? And my first job was, I was still at university, and I worked Saturday in Woolies, well, what was called Rawers. We've lost Woolworths here now. It's gone altogether, and it was such a sort of, you know, it was such a big store. It was so popular. Everybody when I was young used to go to Woolies, but that is no more. But I used to work on the audio counter, doing the earphones and Walkman and, you know, things that they had out then, old-fashioned kind of things. There was no CDs, and the things they had out then, the tapes, and, you know, I worked on that counter on a Saturday morning, but I was still at university then. But that was my first job. And then I was thinking, what was the first single record I ever bought? Can you remember the first single record you ever bought? As a, you know, as I'm saying again, as a growing up or an adult, I would say definitely looking back, because I can see myself buying it. Was a record called Young Girl, and it was by Gary Packett and the Union Gap. Does anybody remember that? I still love that song. And I never play it now, hardly ever play it now, but sometimes on those, you know, those gold type stations, they play it, and I always sing along with that. I really love that. Yeah, Gary Packett and the Union Gap, Young Girl. Does anybody remember that? What was your first record? My first album. I did think about this one because I bought quite a few, but I'm saying the first one I bought with my own money. Let's say that the first one I bought with my own money was the Motown Chartbusters Volume 1. I bought it for one record, and that was Marvin Gaye. I heard it through the grapevine. I bought it for that record, but I loved all the other records on it, and that went up. I mean, Motown Chartbusters went up to volume 100 and something, I think. But my first one I ever bought with my own money was Volume 1. What was yours? What was your first album you ever bought with your own money? My first drink as a grown-up in a bar that I purchased, or was purchased for me, was Babycham. Does anybody remember Babycham? Oh my goodness. There was two drinks at the time. One was called Babycham. One was, can you still get Babycham? I don't even know. And the other one was Cherry B. Oh my goodness. And both of them, you know, you were so sophisticated. We used to have it at home. It came in individual bottles. I think later on they did do like a big bottle of it. But certainly the ones that, when I remember having as a young woman, was the individual bottles, and they always came in like a champagne glass, because it was like a champagne, but it came, they served it in a champagne glass, and oh, you felt so sophisticated with this Babycham. And I can see me and my mum at the club looking, being all sophisticated with Babychams. Do you remember that? What was your first drink? And my first crush. Well, the first time I ever fell in love, hook, line and sinker, was with David Jones from the Monkees. Oh my goodness. Everybody knows the Monkees. And if you're an age with me, you know the Monkees. They were a put-together group for a TV show, the Monkees TV show. It was an American TV comedy. And David Jones was the English guy. He was the lead singer, one of the lead singers. Mickey Dolenz was the other one. But David Jones was, well, he was the love of my life. I had a poster on the wall behind the bed. And I used to kiss him goodnight. I suppose I was about 13 at the time. Not grown, 12, about 12. I wasn't an adult, but he was my first love. Without any doubt, he was my first love. And if anybody said, you know, there'll come a time when, you know, you wouldn't be interested in David Jones, never in a million years, I'm going to love him forever. Did you ever think that? And the Monkees came to England, and they came to Wembley, and I went to see them at Wembley. I think I was 13, 14. Oh my goodness. He was singing, and he laid on the stage on his side, and he sang I Want to Be Free. Does anybody remember that? And well, I was just ecstatic. I lost my mind altogether. But David Jones out the Monkees, I absolutely adored him. So that was definitely my first love. So that's all the things I thought of to share with you, my firsts. I'd love to hear your firsts too. Probably some of them are the same. I bet a lot of you love David Jones too. So thanks for joining me with that, guys. I thought it's something to pep us up and something different to talk about. And please share yours with me. So I'll see you again tomorrow, and thanks for joining me today. Stay safe, guys. Please stay safe. And I love you all. And thanks for being here. Bye, guys. Bye.